Hello everyone, and welcome to the concluding episode of this topic. Last week we started our conversation on the topic of how to manage the aftermath of a relationship breakup. Our guest Dr. Palmer shared with us great insight. Welcome once again to the Animation Therapist channel. Also, join me in welcoming Dr. Palmer to today's edition of the show.
Thank you, the Animation Therapist, for having me again this week.
Last week, Dr. Palmer shared with us why people react in diverse ways after a relationship breaks up, and also talked about why they react in such ways. Today we will be exploring how to cope after a relationship breakup, the unhealthy coping strategies to avoid, and the different phases we may go through while recovering from the breakup. Can we appreciate Dr. Palmer and our audience once again? The first question I'd like to ask is, what are the possible ways people can react to a breakup, and what are the feelings they are likely going to experience?
Good question. There are many different ways that people react and respond to relationship breakups. Some people may experience a wide range of emotions, including sadness, anger, loneliness, and even guilt. Others may try to distract themselves from the breakup by staying busy or throwing themselves into work or hobbies. Some people may turn to their friends and family for support, while others may try to deal with the breakup on their own. And then some people may try to rebound into a new relationship right away.
Can you dig deep into some of the emotions and reactions you just mentioned?
All right, let's start with sadness. It's normal to feel sad after a breakup. You may feel like your world has been turned upside down, and you may feel a sense of loss. Some people may cry, while others may feel numb or have trouble sleeping. It's important to acknowledge your sadness and give yourself time to grieve. Letting yourself feel your emotions is an important part of the healing process. It's also important to remember that feeling sad is not a sign of weakness. Another of those emotions is anger. It's also normal to feel angry after a breakup, even if the relationship is unhealthy or toxic. Anger can feel like a protective mechanism, a way to mask other emotions, like sadness or hurt. Some people may experience anger as rage, while others may experience it as irritability or frustration. It's important to find healthy ways to express your anger, ways such as exercise, sports of physical contact, or journaling. Suppressing anger can lead to physical and emotional problems down the road, so anger is not meant to be suppressed, but expressed appropriately. Another common reaction to a breakup is loneliness. Even if you were the one who ended the relationship, you may still feel lonely. This is because you've lost a source of companionship and intimacy. You may miss the feeling of being connected to another person. You may also feel like you've lost a part of your identity, as your relationship defined who you were. One way to deal with loneliness is to reconnect with friends and family. You can also take time to focus on yourself and your hobbies. Let's talk about the distraction reaction. When someone is trying to distract themselves from a breakup, they may throw themselves into work or hobbies. They may even try to find a new romantic partner right away. While it's normal to want to avoid your feelings, this isn't a healthy or sustainable way to deal with a breakup. In the long run, it's important to face your feelings head on. Distraction can lead to problems like burnout or emotional numbness. Another form of reaction people employ is avoidance. This is similar to distraction, but it's more about actively avoiding your feelings. You may avoid thinking or talking about the breakup. You may even avoid places or people that remind you of your ex. While this may seem like the easy way out it can prolong your healing process. It's better to face your emotions so you can move on healthily. Rumination is another reaction method. This is when you can't stop thinking about the breakup, even when you're trying to move on. You may replay the breakup in your mind over and over again. You may also fixate on the details of or what went wrong. This can be exhausting and can lead to negative thought patterns if not well managed. Other ways people react to a relationship breakup is by engaging in reaction of idealization. When you idealize your ex, you remember them and the relationship as being better than they were. You may fixate on the good times and overlook the bad times. This can prevent you from moving on, as you may feel like you'll never find someone as good as your ex. It's important to be honest with yourself about the relationship and its flaws. Otherwise, you'll never be able to truly move on. The next one I would like to mention is regret. Regret is when you feel like you've made a mistake by ending the relationship. You may think about what you could have done differently, or what you could have said to make things work. But regret can be a trap that keeps you stuck in the past. It's important to remember that you did the best you could at the time and that the breakup was the right decision for you. Finally, let me touch on revenge. This is when you feel like you want to hurt your ex or get back at them. Revenge may seem like a way to get closure or make you feel better, but it usually doesn't. Instead, it can lead to more anger and resentment. It's best to focus on healing and letting go of negative feelings, instead of dwelling on revenge. I remember working with a client in therapy, who wanted to get back at his ex. She decided to be sexually intimate with one of her ex's friend. In the long run, that action of hers didn't go as planned, as her action was used to spite her, both by her ex and the ex's friend she became intimate with. She had to get help because she now had to deal with the breakups and the shame and guilt that came with her actions.
Whoa, thank you Dr. Palmer for that elaborate explanation. Going forward, I heard you mention the need to avoid revenge, rather we should embrace forgiveness. How do we go about forgiving our ex, especially when they have done a lot to hurt us, and cause so much harm to us?
Forgiveness. You need to have an incentive for forgiveness, which could be knowing that moving on, and forgiving yourself, and your ex is for your benefit. Forgiveness is an important part of moving on, but it can be really difficult. Forgiving your ex doesn't mean condoning what happened in the relationship, or pretending like everything is okay. Instead, it means accepting what happened, and letting go of the anger and resentment you might be holding on to. This can take time, but it's worth it for your healing. There are a few steps you can take to achieve forgiveness. First, it's important to acknowledge the hurt and pain you're feeling. It's okay to feel angry, sad, or even numb. Allow yourself to feel those emotions without judgment. 2. Try to understand why the relationship ended. This can help you accept what happened, and let go of any blame you might be placing on yourself or your ex. 3. Try to find compassion for yourself and your ex. Remember that everyone makes mistakes and has flaws. 4. To practice self-compassion. This means being kind and understanding towards yourself. When you're feeling down, try talking to yourself in a way you would talk to a friend who is going through the same situation. For example, instead of saying, "I'm such a failure," you could say, "I'm having a hard time right now, and that's okay." Another way to practice self-compassion is to take care of yourself physically. Get enough sleep, eat well, and exercise. All of these things can help improve your mental health and make it easier to forgive and move on. Forgiving your ex is a process, and it won't happen overnight. Another step you can take is to identify the specific things you're angry about. This might be something your ex said or did, or it might be something you feel you've lost as a result of the breakup. Once you've identified the specific things you're angry about, try to express your anger healthily. This could be through journaling, talking to a friend, or even seeing a therapist. Here's a specific example of how you could apply this process. Let's say your ex cheated on you and you're feeling angry about that. First, acknowledge your anger and sadness. This might look like writing down all the feelings you have about what happened. Then, think about why your ex might have cheated. This could be because they were unhappy in the relationship, or they were not into the relationship in the first place. Once you've considered why your ex did what they did, try to find some compassion for them. Remember, no one is perfect, and they made a mistake. After finding compassion for your ex, you can begin to forgive them. Forgiveness doesn't mean that what they did was okay, but it means that you're letting go of the negative emotions you're holding on to. Forgiveness is about moving on for your benefit, not for your ex's. Finally, it's important to practice self-care and self-love after a breakup. Remind yourself that you are a good person, and you deserve to be happy. Forgiveness is possible, and attainable.
Thanks for that insight on HWO to go about forgiveness. Now, we will like to know how long it can take to recover from a relationship breakup.
There is no specific time frame, as it differs with individual. But there are stages or phases we may go through when recovering from a relationship breakup. We go through the different stages of grief.
Are you saying someone recovering from a relationship breakup can also go through grief?
Of course, grief doesn't only happen when you lose a loved one to death, it can happen at the end of a relationship, after a loss of health or abilities, for example, someone losing his or her leg after a ghastly motor accident. People can also experience grief when they lose their job, have a miscarriage or stillbirth, during relocation or displacement, and so on.
This is great information. Can you please take us through the different stages of grief?
Definitely. There are 5 main stages of grief after a breakup, and they are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. The first stage is denial. Denial is when you're in shock, and you don't believe the breakup is happening. The second stage is anger. Anger is when you're feeling angry and upset about the breakup. The third stage, bargaining, is when you try to negotiate or make deals with your ex to get them back. The fourth stage, depression, is when you feel down and don't want to do anything. And finally, the fifth stage, acceptance, is when you finally come to terms and accept the reality.
I will need you to touch on each stage extensively.
Let's start with denial. Denial is often the first stage of grief because it's a defense mechanism. It's a way to protect yourself from the pain of the breakup. During this stage, you might be in shock and unable to believe that the breakup is happening. You might be in denial about your ex's feelings, or you might be denying that the breakup is permanent. Stage 2 is anger. Anger is a common stage of grief after a breakup. It's a natural response to feeling hurt or betrayed. You might feel angry at your ex, at yourself, or even at the world. During this stage, it's important to find healthy ways to express your anger. The third stage is bargaining. Bargaining is when you try to make deals or promises to get your ex back. You might promise to change something about yourself, or you might try to convince your ex to give the relationship another chance. Bargaining can be a way to avoid facing the reality of the breakup. It can also be a way to avoid the pain of grief. Because grief does come with a lot of emotional pain. Depression is the fourth stage of grief. Depression is a very common stage of grief. During this stage, you might feel very sad and hopeless. You might feel like you'll never be happy again. You might even have physical symptoms like trouble sleeping or changes in appetite. It's normal to feel depressed after a breakup. It's important to be patient with yourself during this stage and to know that the depression won't last forever. The last stage is the acceptance stage. This is the final stage of grief. During this stage, you begin to accept the reality of the breakup. You might start to feel more hopeful about the future. You might even start to feel relief from the pain of the breakup. It's important to remember that acceptance doesn't mean that you're happy about the breakup. It just means that you're ready to move on. It's also important to note that not everybody will follow this particular order. Some people can experience on 3 stages, some can get to the 3rd stage and have a relapse to the 2nd or 1st stage.
Thank you for that clarity. Let's now look into the different unhealthy ways people cope with relationship breakup.
There are many unhealthy coping strategies that people use to deal with the aftermath of a breakup. One is avoidance. This is when you try to avoid thinking or talking about the breakup. You might try to distract yourself with work or other activities. This can make the pain worse in the long run. Another unhealthy coping strategy is using and abusing psychoactive substances, like drugs or alcohol, to numb your feelings. This can lead to addiction and other health problems. A third unhealthy coping strategy is engaging in risky behavior. This could include promiscuity or other dangerous activities, such as high-risk sexual behaviors. Another unhealthy coping strategy is ruminating. This is when you think about the breakup over and over again, without finding any solutions. You might ask yourself, what if? Questions, or dwell on past mistakes. This can lead to anxiety and depression. Another unhealthy coping strategy is dwelling on the past. This is when you focus on how great your relationship was, instead of accepting that it's over. This can prevent you from moving forward and finding happiness. Another unhealthy coping strategy is idealizing your ex. This is when you remember your ex as perfect, and forget about their flaws. This can lead to unrealistic expectations in future relationships. It can also prevent you from accepting the end of the relationship. Another unhealthy coping strategy is self-blame. This is when you blame yourself for the breakup, and feel like you're not good enough. This can lead to low self-esteem and depression, Revenge is another unhealthy coping strategy. This is when you try to hurt your ex or damage their reputation. This is never the right way to deal with a breakup. It will only make you feel worse in the long run. Isolating oneself. This is when you avoid social contact and don't want to talk to anyone about what you're going through. While it's okay to take some time alone to process your feelings, it's not healthy to isolate yourself completely. Isolation can lead to depression and anxiety. Another unhealthy coping strategy is dwelling on fantasies. This is when you spend a lot of time daydreaming about how things could have been different, or about getting back together with your ex. While it's normal to fantasize sometimes, it's unhealthy to do this all the time. It can prevent you from living in the present and making healthy choices. The final one I will talk about is negative self-talk. This is when you talk to yourself in a negative, critical way. You might call yourself names, or say things like, "I'm a failure," or, "I'll never be happy."
Thank you for helping us to know that some of these coping strategies are not healthy. What are the healthy and appropriate ways to cope? What are the practical and healthy things we can engage in the aftermath of a relationship breakup?
I would like to highlight 10 different ways to cope with the aftermath of a relationship breakup. Number 1. Give yourself time to grieve. Know that your feelings are valid. It's important to recognize that the pain you're feeling is normal and valid. Grief is a process, and it is important to give yourself the time and space to work through your emotions. Don't see the emotional distress you're going through as a sign of mental weakness. During this time, you may feel a variety of emotions, including sadness, anger, hurt, and frustration. Allowing yourself to feel these emotions is an important part of the healing process. You have to be able to honor your feelings and permit yourself to feel them. Sometimes people feel ashamed or embarrassed for feeling sad months or even years after a breakup, but those feelings are valid. Journaling about your feelings can be helpful. This can help you get your thoughts out of your head and provide some clarity for you. Number 2. Learn not to dwell on the past. One of the essential ingredients of healing from a relationship breakup is learning not to focus excessively on the past. This doesn't necessarily mean forgetting about the past or pretending that the breakup didn't happen. It simply means focusing on the present and looking towards the future. It can be tempting to want to ruminate on what went wrong, but that can make it harder to move on. Instead, try to focus on the present and the future. Be kind to yourself and recognize that you're doing the best you can. Number 3. Find support. You don't have to go through this alone. Friends and family can be a great source of comfort and understanding. You can also seek out professional help from a therapist if you need more support. They can help you work through your emotions and develop healthy coping strategies. You must surround yourself with people who are supportive and understanding because they can provide you with emotional support, validate your feelings, and actively listen and hear you out. Also, being around people who care about you can help to boost your mood and reduce feelings of loneliness. Number 4. Look out for the positives and opportunities the breakup provides. Sometimes a breakup can be an opportunity to rediscover who you are and what you enjoy. This can be a chance to try new things, meet new people, and find out what makes you happy. It can also be helpful to set goals for yourself, like learning a new skill or trying a new hobby. These may be things you may never have thought about while in the relationship. Finding the silver lining in the breakup can help you to move on and be happier in the future. I remember working with a client going through significant emotional distress after a relationship breakup. While exploring new hobbies, we agreed that she would try out a 2-month volunteering service in an orphanage, and she ended up volunteering for 3 months because that act helped her find a new sense of purpose, which contributed to her healing and attaining closure from the relationship breakup. Number 5. Practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is about being present in the moment and focusing on your breathing and surroundings. It is a way to calm your mind and focus on the here and now. Mindfulness can be practiced in different ways, one of which can be breathing exercises, going for a walk, yoga, doing a mindful activity or tasks like painting, or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, which is one of my favorites. The 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique involves using your 5 main sense organs to connect to your immediate environment. It involves noticing 5 things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This can help you bring your mind back to the present moment. It can also help to ground you and reduce negative thoughts about the past. Number 6. Find ways to relax and prioritize self-care and relaxation are essential to improve our physical and mental health after a relationship breakup. Relaxation and self-care activities, such as taking a hot bath, booking a spa session to get a massage, and spending time in nature, hiking with friends, doing yoga, listening to relaxing music, journaling, exercising, eating a good meal, going camping. You can also decide to take some time off work, go to a resort, spend some time at the beach, and do several other relaxing activities. Self-care and relation activities can help to release stress and tension. Thing will then boost your mood and give you more energy. Enjoy yourself, and don't allow yourself to settle for inappropriate guilt as a result of your decision to prioritize self-care. Self-care is not being selfish, rather it's an act of prioritizing yourself. Number 7. Practice gratitude. Practicing gratitude is a skill that can be developed. It is simply the practice of acknowledging and appreciating the things you have in your life. When you practice gratitude, you focus on the positive things in your life, rather than dwelling on the negative. This in the long run will help to shift one's mindset, make you feel more optimistic, and improve your overall well-being. There are different ways to practice gratitude, which may include keeping a gratitude journal, writing a gratitude letter to a loved one or yourself, or simply taking a few minutes each day to reflect on the things you are grateful for. Number 8. Set healthy boundaries. This means learning to respect your own needs and wants, and not allowing anyone to violate those boundaries. It can be hard to do this after a breakup, especially if you're feeling vulnerable. But it's an important step in moving forward. You need to be able to take care of yourself, and not let others take advantage of you. Comparing your situation to others, or comparing your relationship to other relationships, can be unhelpful. Everyone's experience is different, and you don't need to measure yourself against others. Also, it's important to avoid trying to contact your ex. This can lead to more emotional pain and make it harder to move on. If you find yourself wanting to contact your ex, try to distract yourself with something else, like going for a walk or listening to music. Also, ensure not to give room for anyone to take advantage of the situation. For anyone trying to provide support, especially individuals of the opposite sex, ensure that the limit is defined and your need is respected. Recovering from a relationship breakup can make you vulnerable, especially in the early days of recovery. Ensure you avoid the temptation of jumping into a new romantic relationship, and try to invest in existing friendships or spend more time with family. Number 9. Challenge your negative thoughts. When recovering from a relationship breakup, we will be faced with numerous unhealthy, negative, and weird thoughts popping up in our minds. This should be adequately dealt with, as continuous rumination on such thoughts could worsen our mood, and make us develop an unhealthy mindset. Take for example thoughts like, I will never find love again, or thoughts like, I may never love anybody the way I loved my ex. These are negative thoughts that we must not accept as true. We are meant to challenge such thoughts, by looking out for evidence that doesn't support that thought. When you are trying to challenge negative thoughts, the first step is to identify the negative and unhealthy thoughts, write them down, rating them on how strongly you believe them. After which you can come up with alternative, and more positive thoughts. You can now rate how much you believe the new thoughts. Also know that as much as you may not be able to stop the negative thoughts, challenging those thoughts helps you change your thinking patterns over time. Don't try to stop the thoughts from coming, because you don't have control over them. What you have control over is how you choose to respond to them, so let the focus be on your response to the negative and unhealthy thoughts. Finally, seek professional assistance. Therapy is usually helpful and important in managing the aftermath of a relationship breakup. A therapist can help you work through your emotions, identify, challenge negative thoughts, and develop healthy coping strategies. The therapist will also provide support and validation as you go through the healing process. Kindly check the description if you need the service of a therapist.
Whoa, can we celebrate Dr. Palmer once again? This is great insight, and I believe you all enjoyed the concluding episode of this discussion on the Animation Therapist channel. Do not forget to subscribe, and turn on the notification button. Also like, comment and share the videos on our YouTube channel. Thank you all, cheers.